Didn't know, at least you put a name to a face for some of the people that you've heard that have been joining our team and part of our family. So before we go any further, let's just give it up to the Lord in prayer and open today's meeting. Father God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for this amazing team that you have assembled, that you have brought in this time and this place to Concordia to serve in so many different ways. It truly takes each one of us doing our part to make this ministry grow and thrive and be successful. And Lord, it's not about for us, it's about you. It's about serving you, it's about glorifying you, it's about growing your kingdom. We thank you for this place that we call Concordia. We thank you for this home that we have to share in. We thank you for the time that we get to spend with one another, learning and sharing and working together to expand the kingdom, to mold young minds, to shape the lives of people, to truly take them from birth to death and to minister to them all along the way. Father, for each of us who have been called to this ministry, we thank you. Thank you for providing for us. Thank you for providing for our families. Thank you for the tools and resources and the gifts that we have. In this day and this time in this world, Lord, it is a crazy place to be, but we are truly gifted and truly blessed at this church. Help us never, ever to take for granted the ministry that we have here and the opportunity that we have to love and serve one another and to love and to serve you. Bless our time today, bless our teaching today, bless our ministry and all that we do, and may we give you glory in everything, always, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So our agenda for today is kind of a three-part agenda of sorts. The first part of today is we're going to talk about our CRASE training, C-R-A-S-E. CRASE stands for Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events. And Glenn Barrow is going to lead that for us. Part 2 is going to be the Life Spot training. Many of you in this room have already been through the Life Spot training, but there have been some updates to the app that we need to go through. Excuse me. And then we need to get those that do not have the Life Spot app onto their phones, and we'll talk about the importance of that and why we're doing that in our ministry here. The third part will be the most important part. That's when Pastor Bill gets up here and he's got some comments that he wants to share with the whole team, our whole family here. And then part 4, lunch. So we will have lunch brought in, but please, again, as you need snacks, get them as you go. So again, in today's world, we can never be too prepared for an emergency or a dangerous type situation. If the events of the past year have taught us nothing less, we know that we must do our best to be prepared, to know what to do, and how to act in an emergency or dangerous or an active shooter situation. Today's training will be focused to respond to and act during an active threat on our campus. Glenn Barrow, who is our volunteer director of security, will be walking us through the CRASE training. Glenn is a former SAP. Glenn formerly worked for San Antonio Police Department and is a current police officer, as well as a forensic science teacher. He has spent countless hours counseling, training, and helping us make our campus better secure and takes his role very seriously. We're blessed to have Glenn with us today, so Glenn, I'll turn it over to you. Can everyone hear me? No. You can't say no, you can't hear me. Hi, I'm Glenn. So, this is a refresher for most of you, for new people who may have had it somewhere else. But we're going to have it today, and I'll try not to take the 2-hour allotted time slot that I was given, because Jesse wants to get my spot going. What I would ask of you, I understand we all have technology, and that's what I'm living with. Please stay off your cell phones while I'm doing this, because if you need to get up and have a phone call, I get it. But please don't be on your cell phone while we're teaching this class, because this can be the difference with us surviving and us ending up like we mounted. So we need to take this very serious. This is about surviving an event. I didn't write the program. I'm simply teaching what the state of Texas taught me. And you're going to learn what to do during a disastrous situation. And it's active shooter response, but active shooter could be anything, okay? It could be, it's not necessarily a shooter, so we should call it active killer. Active killer involves a knife, a gun, a car. Anything that can be used to kill multiple people. So we're going to start with that. Active attack events. We're going to talk about stress response and ADD, which is avoid, deny, defend. Formerly it was called run, hide, fight. But somewhere in the state of Texas they said run and hide sounds cowardly, so we now call it avoid, deny, defend. Active events. To figure out what I'm doing here. I'm new. Okay, an active event. So I have a list of things that have happened
up to 2022. We don't have currently this year, but we have all the specifics for the events that have occurred up to that point. So we'll talk about that. But federal definition of an active shooter event is one or more people actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined, populated area. Confined is inside. Populated is in the courtyard. If that's an active event, an active killer event. So we need to make sure we understand it's not just in your classroom or in the gym or in the Family Life Center. It's anywhere, and it's the attempting to kill multiple people. One-on-one is murder, but this is a multiple person event. So we want to understand what happens in an active event and how do we prepare, and God willing, how do we prevent what's happening to us? Attempted mass murder, that's what it's all about, folks. 1, 2, 5, it's just an attempted mass murder event. And it can be by gun, knife, car. A grenade, who knows, it could be anything, but generally it's by gun. So the attacker, there's no profile for the attacker. We don't know how to define what the attacker looks like. Does it look like me? Does it look like Brad? We don't know what he looks like. Does it look like Cheryl? We don't know what they look like because the mindset is deliberate. They're focused on what they're doing. They're detached. Do we understand the detached part? They're just not with us, okay? They're bullies or have been bullies, and many of them want to kill themselves or be killed by the police. Mostly they want the police to kill them so they don't have to do it themselves. But there's no mindset. There's no profile, I mean. We don't have any way of saying who is going to be the next active killer. Male or female, we just don't know. Sometimes it could be male and female, or maybe it's one person, maybe it's two. It could be like Columbine. So we don't know what they're doing, but what can we do to find out or to keep an eye on? What just recently happened in San Antonio, what happened, was it yesterday? They arrested the cousin to the Uvalde shooter because he was trying to buy an illegal rifle so that he could continue what his cousin did. And somebody saw that or heard that. How about social media? Do they broadcast what they're going to do? Do they make a manifesto? Is there a story out there that they put out that us older people, we may not be real keen on some of the social media events, but everyone else? Look at social media. What if you find something? What do you do with that? So we need to keep that in mind because it's not always a surprise. They broadcast what they're going to do. Okay, guests. You're all guests. Thanks for being here. Restrooms, doors are out. I can't help you with that. Breaks, you'll get a break if you get up and walk out the door. If you need a break, please go outside. It's not a big deal. And please, again, stay off your cell phones. There's nothing. And if I do see you on your cell phone, I've been told I can say something. Don't be mad. It's not me. All right. We're going to talk about history of violence, exposure to violence, substance abuse and dependence. We'll talk about mental illness and the history of suicidality. FBI making prevention of reality, identifying, assessing, and managing the threat of the targeted attacks. How do we do that? The FBI, they have all these people and all these algorithms that come up with these ideas. How do we as a campus figure out what's happening? So we have to go and use what the state has given us, and hopefully that'll get us in the right mindset so we can go on further and find out what's happening. Risk factors. What are the risk factors? Stalking, harassing, threatening behavior. Has any teacher in here, don't raise your hand, had a student that is doing any of these behaviors, stalking, harassing, or threatening? Any? It's out there. It's in every class. We just don't recognize it. How about negative family dynamics and support system? How about the loner kid? How about that person? Do we know what that person looks like? Can you identify that person in your classroom? Yes, you can identify that person. So we need to pay attention to all of these things that make a difference into identifying who is potentially going to do something that's going to mass kill people. We just have to identify them. Here's a list, starting in 2000, of active shooter or active killer events. The blue is the car, red is the knife, and yellow is the gun. And the larger the dot, the 4+ people. So 520. That's before January 1st of this year. 520 events. And how many of them were? The majority we would say were gun, correct? There's a few knives and maybe one or two automobiles. So the majority of what we see is going to be with a handgun or a gun, correct? A knife can happen, but maybe it's easier to defend. I'm not going to say that, but it could be. So many believers believes that schools are most frequently where it happens. When combined business and other commerce locations actually make up the majority. So business is where it's happening, the majority, not school. That's actually schools in the third place. And that may have changed with this year's numbers, but they haven't compiled them up. So it's a business. How often is it at other? What is other? It's not a school, it's not a business. How about church? Ooh. Can church be part of it? Yep. What's the last church that had a shooting? Who can tell me? Anybody care? What's the last one? White Settlement? That was 2019? You guys, have we had one since then? Sutherland Springs. Okay, what's after that? What happened after Sutherland Springs? Because that is not the last one. I don't know, I'm just making numbers up, I know. But I'm telling you, there has been a lot of events involving churches, and it's growing from White Settlement. Actually, it was before White Settlement, but church was before. I thought Sutherland Springs was before White Settlement. Yeah, Sutherland Springs, White Settlement is the Fort Worth, Dallas area. So the point is, it's growing in numbers, right? Churches are no longer soft or no longer hard targets or not thought of. They're now soft targets that are being utilized because they want to make a point. People want to make a point about what's going on. So we need to pay attention to our other and our school combined. The shooter's connected. If there's a direct or relationship, they're connected to it. If there's a direct relationship, if you have absolutely no connection, that's the red. I'm sorry, the green is no connection. So 39% they know somebody or something. Sandy Hook, what did he know? Or what was his relationship? Mom was a teacher. Or he went to school there. Okay, how about White Settlement? I can find no connection with that one that I'm aware of. How about Sutherland Springs? Family member? Ex-wife was going there. Other churches we have, any other thing we can attack? How about the guy at Uvalde? What did he know? Or what was his relationship? Former student? So he had a connection. Where's another place an event happened? Mass killing. How about Las Vegas? The guy from the hotel. What was his connection? Anybody? I don't know what his connection was. I just don't want to go and say it and have an answer. Thanks for leaving me on that. All right, let's take a look at some research into active shooters. Okay, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Does that make sense? Sure. And we're about to go through that. All right, Santa Barbara, California, 2014, active killer event. Pure evil is at its best. The perpetrator killed 3 people independently by stabbing them at a restaurant, and eventually proceeded to attacking people with a gun on campus and driving a car over others. So he used a knife, a gun, and a car. All 3 in this event. So this is a prime example why things have changed. Instead of active shooter, we're calling it active killer, because it's not just about shooting. Orlando, Florida. What was that? Is it, oh, never mind, the name is up there. Pulse nightclub. And what happened at Pulse nightclub? 49 people were killed. Because it was Islamic inspired terrorist attack and they killed 49 people. The shooter was connected to the nightclub because he frequently was a patron there. So there's a connection with Pulse nightclub. And Las Vegas was 2017. Let's see if it tells me. Individual attack concert goers from the elevated position at Mandalay Bay Hotel, killing 59, making this the highest active shooter since 9/11. Stress the use of alcohol. So alcohol, stand by. I'm sorry, I'm learning to read. It's a new language. Stress the use of avoid, deny, defend. So in that event, when he started shooting people, what could you do if you were in that crowd of people? How could you avoid that? Run. How would you deny it? Denying means we're talking about that, not letting it in. You couldn't deny that event because he was shooting from an elevated platform. All you could do is avoid it by running or defend yourself. How are you going to defend yourself from a guy that's 14 floors up in the hotel? You can't. So all you can do in that event is run. Find someplace to hide. Do something other than, well, they're all running, and it's a stampede where you get thousands of people running because somebody's shooting at you, so you have to consider. And please, when you're in these events, when you go someplace, think about, we don't talk about this and it's not listed, but think about how you're going to get out of the event. That's important, how you get out of this, because you cannot avoid it if you don't know how to get out of it. If somebody came in right now and everybody rushed out the first 2 doors, how hard would that be to get out? Every one of you. You couldn't do it all the time, right? So think of other options and ways to get out of the place. Do you know the difference with cover and concealment? Probably not. Kathy knows, but I don't know if Kathy really knows. Cover is something that protects you. So I can stand behind a brick wall and hope that's cover. Cement wall, hope that's cover. Concealment is standing behind the partition. Can't see me, so it's harder to shoot me, but in this event, we want hard cover. We want something to protect us. You can't hide behind this and hope a bullet doesn't come through because he's randomly spraying them. You need to find a hard, protected place. Cement covers, cars, anything except just trying to hide in plain sight. Plain sight does not work. How about New York City? 2017. What did you do here? I think he used a U-Haul or a Home Depot truck. That's bad advertisement. He killed 8 people, moving 15 using the Home Depot truck. No gun, no knife. Just started running over people. What do we do with that? Avoid it, right? Get off the road, get out of the way. Sometimes you're stuck in the middle, folks, and you don't have a choice. And that's kind of why we're here today, because those of you that are educators, if this happens, you're in your classroom, you're kind of stuck. Okay, so you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Sutherland Springs 2017. One gunman killed 26 people. He wounded 20 more. He was kicked out of the Air Force for crazy things, and that somehow didn't go into the DEA, ATF, whoever's radar, and he was able to get it done. So how do we stop that? How does Sutherland Springs stop? Anybody? I'm sorry? A witness outside heard the shooting, ran home, got his rifle, got into a chase, shots fired. Don't know who shot, killed him, but I think the reports are he killed himself when he was being closed in on. So he wanted to be killed again, as most of them do. But an outside person, not even related, heard the event, grabbed his rifle, and went to town. Can we do that? Sure, if we have that ability, but if we don't, we have to figure out what to do instead of that, because all of us don't have a rifle in our house right behind the school here. We just don't have that access. Okay, so the number of deaths. What gives us our number of deaths? What are the things that matter? How quickly the police arrive. How fast do you think the police are going to get here in an event?
17 minutes.
I can't hear it. 2 minutes will never happen.
17.
I'm a policeman. Come on. You know, I gotta put my foot down first. Okay, that you can't use that. We're not talking about life bodies cheating. Generally, don't talk to Greg anymore. Generally, how long it takes the police to get here and target availability. So if I'm an active shooter, that's my hallway. Not a lot of killing going on, right? And of course, you see us running, but there's not many policemen run that fast anymore. That, how about that? Target availability. I have a hallway full of kids. The school in Florida, Parkland, was it Parkland? What happened in Parkland? Pulled the fire alarm, they came out and started shooting fish in a barrel. Then what did he do? Put his gun away and walked out with him. Walked out as a student. How do we know who the shooter is? Well, if you see him with a gun, of course, but if you don't, in all the chaos, the fire alarm, everybody's rushing out, bam, 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 put my gun in my pocket and take outside with him. They found him, but he got out of the school, and he should have not gotten out of the school. So, target availability. If there's a lot of people, and the police are not running like that guy, it's going to be bad. Okay, the number of deaths are going to increase. Unless we use this program and put together things in our mind, in our classroom that works to protect us from this happening. If you don't let the kids out in the hallway, they can't be gunned down by that guy. All right, 3 minutes. They say 3 minutes is the number. How many of y'all are policemen in this room? Deacon, where do you think you could be in 3 minutes in an event if you were out there? Do you think you could make it, truthfully, when you were DPS? No. 3 minutes is, that's a hopeful thing, folks. Let me tell you how long 3 minutes is. I'll tell you how long 8 minutes is, because I've been in a fight waiting for help. 8 minutes is about 7 hours when you're fighting somebody alone. So 3 minutes will seem like forever. It will not go by. Your clock is going to slow way down, and you're going to think, where are the police at? So we have to understand, yes, we have live spotting. Yes, they're going to come rushing to us, but traffic. You don't have to get through traffic, right? And we don't have a traffic issue, right, on 1604, do we? Not a traffic issue. So, okay, wait, now I have lights and sirens. So everybody knows when you hear a siren, you rush up, you get out of the way, right? What? You guys are stuck in traffic. You got no place to go. And there's somebody behind you with a siren trying to get around you. He's stuck. Time is ticking, and he knows he has to be here, but he can't get here because of traffic. So there's more factors than just, is the policeman ready? He should be always ready, but is he ready? Is he prepared, and can he get here? Closest responder, back corner. There's others, but that's the one I can point out. He's back there. So he's going to be here in less than 3 minutes. Right? But just check it. I know, it's just easy. He's going to be fine. So that's going to be your quickest responder. Please do not count on the police being here in 3 minutes. We pray it's going to happen. No, we pray it's never going to happen here, so we don't have to count on them being here. So be prepared to fight at least 3 minutes. And that is a long 3 minutes, folks. Okay, we're going to talk about disaster response. The background signs of how people behave in high-stress situations. How do you react under fire? Who's been in a shooting? Okay, got one person. So is it different than everyday life when you're in a shooting? Does everything change and slow down? Is your mind different? Are you reacting the way you think you should? Does anybody in here know exactly how who's been to the war? Anybody? Any veterans? Nobody. Okay. You go to war, you know you're going to be shot at, right? Maybe you're going to the war. So you expect that. So you know your job is to react to the shooting because somebody's shooting at you, so you must stop them. You're a school teacher or a church administrator. You don't expect that. So how are you going to act? Who's going to run to the fire when there's a fire? Or who's going to run from it because that's what we do. So we're going to talk about how we react under pressure because none of us in this room, including me, can say, I'm doing that. I expect that's what I'm doing, but until that event happens, I do not know. None of us will know what's going to happen. All right, 3 stages of disaster response. A lady named Amanda Ripley wrote a book in 2008 called The Unthinkable, Who Survives When Disaster Strikes and Why. Good book, you should read it. So she talked about research that explains survivability in an event. So that's the Pentagon. Who in the Pentagon ever thought they were going to have to get out like that? So we don't know. So we need to go through the process and learn what is going to happen and what am I going to do if something does happen. Because what happens if we don't think about it? Coaches, where's my coaches? 2 coaches? 3 coaches? Oh, there's one. Okay. So coaches, where do you teach? Where do you practice? Where do you practice? You practice practicing. You practice good practice, right? Because bad practice gives you bad results. So you want to practice the right things, correct? So if we don't practice those, what happens?
We're not prepared.
Not prepared, you're not going to react. So what you practice and plan on, and I teach this to a lot of different venues, what you practice is what you do. Okay? Muscle memory. Everybody knows what that is, right? So if you don't practice anything, that's what you're going to do in a disaster, in an emergency. So we have denial, we have deliberation, and we have decisive moment. All right, let's talk about denial. Denial is the first stage of... Nope. Okay, that's denial. What is denial? Many people do not admit there's a disaster. They don't want to admit it. Maybe a school shooting. You hear gunfire. What do you think it is? Oh, that's firecrackers. What did you just do? Deny it. You denied it's a shooting. It's firecrackers. So you've already started your response to go the wrong direction. So we need to understand how we're going to react and what happens if we delay it. All right, if we delay taking action. In the World Trade Center, people called others to check on them. They logged off their computers, they grabbed their computer bag, they grabbed their stuff on their purse, and how many people died? 3,000? 2,500? Is your purse really that important? Is anything that important? Because you've denied it's a problem, so it's not going to happen on my floor. I'll get my stuff and it'll be good. Let me put my stuff in here and I'm good. No, that's denial. Something's going bad and you need to respond accordingly. If you don't, then what happens? Let's talk about the brain. The brain is lazy. It wants things to fit into existing plans. Anybody OCD in here? Anybody afraid to raise their hand? I like things to fit into place. Everything in its place. All right? That's me. What do I do if it doesn't fit there? It frustrates me. It puts me out of my comfort zone, puts me out of my thought process. Maybe things become difficult because that's not where I wanted it. So you have to understand the brain is lazy. It wants it to go where it goes. If it doesn't go where it's going, then what do we do with it? This is not working. Okay, so forget technology. We'll go with that. All right. Listen to this video.
Place like this street in New York City, if you were unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime or taken ill unexpectedly, you might think that surrounded by all these people, someone would intervene. After all, isn't there safety in numbers? Psychologists say no. Research suggests that often a victim is less likely to receive assistance when surrounded by a group rather than a single bystander. When people are in a crowd, it's easier to pass the buck. It's what psychologists call the diffusion of responsibility. Liverpool Street Station in London, a busy thoroughfare for commuters. Unknown to these passers-by, Peter is an actor. As part of an experiment on bystander apathy, he's pretending to be ill. How long before he gets help? Helping would be inconvenient or even risky. He lies there for more than 20 minutes and no one raises an eyebrow.
It's always very distressing to watch situations like this where people are obviously suffering and no one's actually helping them. But what we have here is two conflicting rules. One is the rule we ought to help, and the other is the rule that we ought to do what everybody else is doing. And here you have effectively a group of strangers who are exerting the pressure not to intervene, not to help. And it's very difficult to rebel.
Ruth, another actor, takes Peter's place. How long before she receives help? 4 minutes later, and 34 people have passed without stopping.
Some people don't really want to know. This is not the time. Well, they have got the time, they just don't want to get involved.
Unwittingly, these strangers have silently formed a temporary group with a rule: don't get involved. They're afraid to stand out from the crowd and won't take action if no one else does. This woman has clearly spotted them, but she conforms to the rule and does nothing. Watch what happens, though, when someone else helps. She suddenly finds herself in a different group with a new rule: to help.
First I thought she was dead. Then I saw, checked to see if she was breathing or not. And I looked around and I couldn't believe that no one had noticed her because there was a girl that sat there just absorbed in reading a newspaper.
This time, Peter's dressed as a respectable gentleman. Now that his dress is in keeping with those around him, how long before he's rescued? 6 seconds. She even calls him sir, and suddenly everyone's a good Samaritan.
Do you suffer from epilepsy?
No.
Why you lying on the floor in the rain?
Because he's part of the right group. Everyone wants to help.
I would just hate to be in this position of feeling ill and nobody helping and walking past, so just like to check that he was okay. Well, it's wet, that he must really be ill because the ruined suit anyway.
So what happened? What's the first thing with the first guy laying down? How many people were buying it? We didn't even say how many people, did they? But what did everyone walking past him do? I denied that I needed to help that person because that person looked like they were less than me. Who wants to go downtown and grab a homeless person who's laying on the street unconscious and shake him and see if they're okay? Most of us will walk past it because that's denial. But then the lady, you saw a lot of them kind of look as they walked by, and nobody wants to admit that. Yeah, I can't tell. Okay, so then the lady's there. It's like, oh wait, different class of people maybe. So then we go into deliberation. We go from denial to deliberation. What do we decide then? What happened? How do I fix it? Should I get involved? And then one lady said, well, I didn't want to get involved. And then she saw somebody else get involved. So, well, it must be okay. Because do we not follow suit? Are we not lemmings, really? We tend to follow the person in the front. If they stop, we stop. If they don't stop, we keep going because, well, they didn't stop, so maybe I don't need to stop. So we need to understand it's really important to get to the next stage and not be that person that walks right by and gets caught on video looking at them and walking on. Deliberation. All right, let's talk about that. In this book, or this part of the book with Ripley, she identifies that once people get past denial, they either enter the deliberation phase, they don't either. They understand something bad has happened and they've got to do something. That would be the 25th floor of the World Trade Center. Something happened. Now I'm in denial, it's not what it doesn't, that can't be an airplane sticking out of the building next door. Okay, now it is, so now deliberation, now I have to decide what I'm doing, right? You have to deliberate that something has happened. The firecrackers you heard in the hallway are really not firecrackers. Because how many, please raise your hand, who has ever heard firecrackers in a school setting? So please remember that. If you ever hear what sound like firecrackers, please remind yourself that's denial, it's not firecrackers. We must do what we're trying to teach you to do. We must deliberate and figure out what to do with that. Because it is not fireworks. Unless you went to high school with me, then that's a different story. It was okay back then. Okay, so we need to figure out what the brain's going to do. It's in the deliberation phase, all right? The problem is the brain is not functioning well because the effect of stress and the denial. So now my brain is turning into mush. I'm getting mush brain because it can't be real. I've got to figure out what to do. So we need to go to the next step and figure out, what do we do with this? All right, deliberation. We're going to talk about the human brain. Just for a minute. The human brain is reflective. It's a thinking brain. It's flexible because we have to have flexibility or we just shut down what we're doing. It's rational. It's slow. You have to think about what you're doing with the human brain. But if we don't use the human brain, we use the lizard brain. That's the other side of what can happen in your brain in an event. You can be the human brain or the non-thinking. It's not reflective, it's reflexive. So the lizard brain is reflexive. It's a reacting brain, so when that thing flies by, out goes the reflexive tongue and in comes lunch. It's fixed, it's emotional, it's fast, and it just happens. The lizard doesn't get to think, well, you know, if I catch that, maybe I'm not going to like it, so I should go catch something else. It's not the lizard. So you're going to be the human brain and the lizard brain in an emergency situation. And I want you to think, as you get into the lizard brain thought, how do I change that? How do I get out of the lizard brain? What can I do? Human brain will fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze. That's your responses. You hear firecrackers, so what do? You freeze, maybe. Do you fight? Go out and see what it is. Do you run? Is there anything wrong with running? No. There is nothing wrong. If you need to get away from the event, then get away from the event. The worst thing you could do is freeze, because then you become one of the victims potentially, because you just stood there and did nothing. Something is always better than nothing. All right, so here's the stress response stages. These are things that policemen learn in the academy we live with every day. We're going to walk through the specific things of what happens to your brain. Condition white, heartbeat 60, unless you're Karen Shea, and it'll never hit 60. Where are you at? It's like 12. It's got a low heartbeat. All right, so you're white. You're in your white stage. That's perfect. You're asleep. Everything's calm. You're reacting. Your brain's functioning. There's no problem. Then you go to yellow. Something triggers you. You're asleep at night. You hear a noise outside. You wake up. 60 goes to 90. You're now in yellow. Something's wrong. Your fine motor skills start to deteriorate. Those of you that have taken my gun class, you understand that's when they tell you your fine motor skills deteriorate. You can't hit the one thing that you think you can hit with your finger because the skills have deteriorated. So you have to figure out what's next. Then we go to the red stage. Okay, complex motor skills deteriorate. Complex skills deteriorate. Your heartbeat goes up to 120-ish. Your physical performance is better. You're stronger. You're faster. It's that lady that the son was being squished by the car, and she went into red and picked up the car and got her son out. You know, we've all heard that story. Does it happen? Good, because all your magic has come to you. All right, all your skill, all your strength, all your adrenaline, and you've handled it because you're red. But if you go beyond red, what happens? We're trying to get you. Come back here. Go beyond red, you go to gray. What happens in gray? I can't see it. It's technology guy. Don't give up. Quit staring at me. Pastor, you're staring. Now, got it. That was painful. Okay, great. Go to gray. Cognitive processing deteriorates. Great. Your heartbeat's way up. It's probably faster than you've been unless you're exercising. You get tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, you can't hear, time dilation, everything slows down, and that 3 minutes seems like I said, 7 hours. So you're in gray. Now what do you do? Can you react the way you need to react? Because you've let yourself get out of where you should be. Now you're in a stressful situation. You can't respond because everything's against you. How about condition black? 175. Your heart's about to explode. You feel like it's pounding in your head. System overload, you freeze, you void your bowels and bladder. That's not what we want. Can you do anything in condition black? No. You are finished. I've gone to work as a policeman in condition red and said, hey boss, I just had a fight with my ex-wife and I'm probably in red and I probably should take the day off. Goodbye. Perfect, because I knew I should not be out there on the street dealing with people carrying a handgun and that heartbeat. Worst thing in the world. So think about it, folks, when you get in this condition, you've got to slow your heart rate down. You've got to do some things to make it better. You've got to fix it, or you're going to continue to climb and become a victim, because you can cannot react, and you cannot respond and defend anybody, yourself, your students, your family, or me for heaven's sake. You have to be able to get out of, don't get to black. If you get to red, start slowing down and figure out what to do with it. All right, notice the length of time, I'm going to play this just a minute, length of time it takes the female with the stroller to remove the child from it. This is never properly, she never gets the child out, so watch and see what happens here. There's an event, no noise, there's a lady with a stroller. Things are going bad. She cannot get her child out of that stroller. Why? Because she went from white to gray, just like that, or black. Lost her mind. Something went wrong. Who's ever been someplace and saw that? Something happened and you didn't react right. Because you denied it, you didn't deliberate what you should do, and you just panicked and you tried to get out. Does that help? No. That child did not come out the way they should have come out. So, in this incident, 10 seconds can seem like a lifetime because she's trying to get her child out of the stroller to get out of the stroller where the attacker is. 10 seconds. That is, I promise, this is the longest time you're going to spend. So that's the whole point of this, folks, is to get you to understand these things happen, but I want you to think, what can I do to change it? You went to yellow, you're going to have an event now and go, oh, wait. Oh, I'm ready. And then you have to stop that because you cannot function and do anything protective or productive in that condition. You have to bring your heart rate down. So, deliberation, we're going to talk about, this is the Station Nightclub fire. Do y'all remember the Station Nightclub? It's a terrible fire, and it's going to explain what you do. All right, the floor plans, these are the floor plans. So look here, if you would, exits. You have an exit at the main bar, you have an exit at the main entrance, you have an exit to the right, number 4 at the stage, and you have one over here at the kitchen. So that's 4 doors. Now how many windows can you see? 2 in the office in the back, and the whole front side is basically glass. Who in here does not think a window is an exit? Because you need to change your thinking right now. A window may not be your choice of exits, but it is a way out. And watch this. Stop. I turned me off. Hold on. How about now? Can you hear me now? What happened? Technology guy. I know, listen to me.
It takes a second.
So I want to go back. I don't want to play this, I want to ask you something about this fire. Does anybody remember it truthfully? Big fire, bad news. What happened? Well, there were pyrotechnics. Great White was in there. They had pyrotechnics. They had not prepared like they should have. The people set the pyrotechnics up, took a shortcut. So now you got a group of people, hundreds of people inside this nightclub. And the pyrotechnics, stop it. So what's in the back of the stage? It looks like something should be wrong. Each yellow circle represents a body found at the location with the total number of bodies in white for that area, the number of dead in the exit hall. In the exit hall, the very front door, 31 people died in the doorway because they all tried to get out and they ended up stacking and getting stacked up and couldn't get out. 31 people. Look at the bottom, the kind of light-colored windows broken. 2 ladies were hiding in the game room area, and somebody broke a window and they got out the window. I don't know anybody else who went out the window except those 2 ladies. Top left corner, we have 10 people that died in that corner near the kitchen. 9 in the video games room, or 1 in the kitchen, 10 in the back of the offices. 2 in the office, 3 in the restrooms, 1 died at the stage, and 18 died in the game room, and 9 in the middle of the dance floor. Why'd they die? Because they denied it when they saw the flames. Ooh, pyrotechnics. They're now climbing the wall and engulfs the entire thing. It takes 30 seconds for the fire alarm. They had 30 seconds they could have gotten out if they had reacted to what they saw, but they denied it's a fire known as pyrotechnics. No, that's a big fire. Okay, a lot of people died in this fire that should not have. All right, so that is the main entrance. Those are people stacked up, trying to get out. 31 people died in that doorway because they did not react. They denied what they were seeing. They had no clue about what was happening until it was too late. So, what do when you get into the deliberation phase? You need to calm yourself, you need to breathe, you need to shift your emotions to stay fit. Calm yourself. How? How do you calm yourself? Tell yourself to calm down. I'm not really good with that person. My wife will tell me all the time, but I'm not really good with it. Breathing slowly for your breathing. You're going to combat breathing. Does anybody know what that is? 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. Just deep breathe, slow. Deep breathe to slow yourself down. Calm everything down. Who goes to the doctor and finds out their blood pressure is high? Every time you go to the doctor, but only when you're checking in. Because that's when they check your blood pressure. I have that syndrome, white coat syndrome. How do I fix it? 1 minute of breathing, I can best blood pressure in the world because I've calmed myself down. So you have to breathe to change what's happening. And then you have to shift your emotions. What are your emotions? Panic, fear. How do you shift them? Okay, no longer going to stay with fear and panic. Something's happening. I'm going to have an exit strategy. I'm getting out because I know something's happening. I'm not going to stand here or sit here and wait for it to kill me. I need to react to it. And then stay fit. Being fit, Karen's heartbeat, 12. I don't know how she does it, but I try to stress her out every chance I talk to her. I can't. So her heartbeat is perfect. Do we all have that? Does anybody have high blood pressure? Don't raise your hand. I won't pick on you, friend. You have high blood pressure, what do you do about it? You take medicine, right? So we don't have medicine in this situation, so we have to do things ourselves. Tell ourselves to calm down, breathe right, slow down, don't panic, shift your emotions, change from flight to fight, figure out what you're going to do, and stay fit. It's just practice, folks. Anybody know how to shoot a gun? Don't raise your hand. Too late. Easy. What do you do with a gun when you shoot it? Or how do you become proficient with it? Practice. This is the same thing, folks. You have to practice this. You don't get to wait until an event happens. Oh, snap, Mr. Barrow said there was 4 things. What was that first one? You have to practice this. This is something you need to practice. I'm going to ask Doris to make posters for everyone. I'm just kidding, Doris. I'm in trouble. Okay, so here we go. We have script and we have practice. No matter what, eventually people get placed under enough stress, their human brain shuts down. They become lizard brain. One of the cool things about your human brain is that you can use it to program your lizard brain beforehand when you're not under stress. So practice making your lizard brain not be there so that your human brain can stay intact, because the lizard brain takes over your stuff, all right? Unless you can breathe your way out. Scripting means thinking through the scenario in your head to make a better plan. So Cheryl and I do this all the time, and we didn't know how to name it. We talk about every place we go, what are we doing? What happens if something happens? I'm sitting in church in the back pew on the left side because I want to be able to get to whatever the problem is. What's her plan? We talk about that. What are you going to do? So this is scripted. You can do this in your classroom, folks. You can do it amongst yourselves as teachers or staff members. You can do this anytime. Just walk up and say, hey, Greg, what are you going to do? We have a fire, or we have a mass shooter. How are you going to react? And get to thinking about the plan. And plan in your head so that you have something that you plan versus nothing, because nothing doesn't work. And then practice what you plan. Cheryl and I practice it all the time. She's probably tired of hearing it. So, does anybody know who this is? Did anybody listen last year? Yes, you did. You just don't remember. It's not really that important. This guy, there's his statue. So when the 9/11 happened, Rick is upstairs in the tower. He's like, oh crap, something happened. Sorry, can I say crap? Too late. Something happened. What do I do? So everybody's getting their computer bags and their watches and trying to call, hey, yeah, I'm okay, but I'm going down the elevator. The elevators don't work. Airplanes crashing to the tower. This guy goes up and down, up and down. Let me see if I have a number here. Up and down and saves people. All he does is get people down and out the stairs. Goes back up, saves more people. Goes back up, saves more people. I cannot read the number of people he saved. Stand by. How many? 2,700. A bunch of people, right? So how did he do it? He skipped the 9 and went straight to the liberation and said, I got to get people out. That's my job. The Walmart shooting in El Paso. What did the concealed carry guy do? Does anybody remember that story? There's a guy in there shooting people up. There's a concealed carry guy that maybe could stop the threat, but his job instead was get people out of the store. Get people out. So he made a deliberate decision to not be a victim, to not freeze, and get people out. And that's what this man did. He went up and down until he died. He died saving people. That's his goal, right? Did he know in his day that, oh, I'm going to get him tomorrow, we're going to go to work again, or today, and it's a bad day, so I'm going to kiss you back because I'm not coming home. Because I'm going to die today in the building. No, he didn't do that. Nobody does, hopefully. But his mind and his practice was, if something happens, I've got to get people out. And so he's a saver, he's a rescuer, he's a hero. Get people out. Do something. Again, because nothing does not work. Spencer Stone, Alec Sorkolatos, and Anthony Sadler's story. Okay, these are 3 guys that fought off fear and moved to the decisive moment to defend not only themselves but others on the train. That train was, I don't remember the train, but do you remember the story of the 3 military guys that fought off the attacker? Does the military teach us that? Sure. Maybe. Doesn't matter. It's their mindset. Maybe they were programmed enough to react. I think they were in different branches of service too, but did they react correctly? Yes, they did. What did they do? They went, took their own concerns out of their head and said, we got to save people, and they started fighting. Went straight from denial into deliberation and decided, we're going to do this. And they stopped the attacker. And they became heroes. Perfect. I think there's a video here. Oh, there is. Too bad you have to watch it.
A little less than a month ago, 3 childhood friends were on a train bound for Paris when they heard a gunshot. Amid screams and commotion of the passengers, they quickly focused on a man wielding an AK-47. Almost instantly, one of them said, "Let's go," and the 3 ran toward the shooter. Those 3 friends are with us here today. Thank you, Alec, Spencer, and Anthony, for what you did on that train and for joining us here. And that's because after Alec said, "Let's go," he and Spencer and Anthony sprinted toward the gunman while he trained his rifle. Spencer tackled the assailant, and the 3 worked to disarm him. As we know, Spencer was stabbed in that effort. After they knocked out the gunman, they tended to other injured on board before paramedics and police arrived.
Excellent. What did they do? They did not stay in denial. They said, we've got to do something. So how many of us think we can do that? I know at least 5 people in this room that can do it. I hope there's more, but do we really know in that instant we've got to go stop it? Do we really know we're going to do that? Have we thought of that in our head, saying, okay, something happens, I have to go to it? I think of it every day. If something happens, I'm going to it. It's just, that's who I am. Does that mean I'm going to it because at that moment, maybe I'm not, maybe something stops me? My goal and my practice is to go to the bad thing and make the bad thing stop. And I want you to understand, I'm not asking you to go to the bad thing. I'm asking you to do something to defend whatever your bubble is. If your bubble's full of kids, defend that. If your bubble's full of something else, do that. But I'm asking you to do something other than nothing. Because how many people on the train? Did you say 3,000 people on the train? How many people reacted? 3. I'm sure more jumped in once he got the gun out of his hand and got him subdued, but 3 people reacted initially. So just please think about what you're going to do and practice
A
it.
little less.
Civilian response. Let's look specifically at the response options. We would like somebody to remember referencing back to these 3 phases of denial, deliberation. What's the last one? Decisive moment. All right, so don't deny. So you hear gunshots. What do you hear additionally to the bang? Casings hitting the floor. Maybe you're close to hear that, so that should tell you, okay, that's not the fireworks. No, it's not. And you're already not going to believe it's fireworks. So you have to go straight to deliberation. Something is happening, what do? I must react. If you've never heard, and this is not even close to the volume I'd like to put it, I'd like to have the right decibels for a 9mm handgun so you can understand what that sounds like. I've used it with security training in an event so they could hear it, because you need to hear that sound. It's going to be way louder than that, and it's going to catch you off guard, and you do not have hearing protection because you're not on the gun. This is real life. You're going to hear something, and you don't know what to do, except you must go to deliberation and do something else. You cannot just sit there. Recognize some civilians never heard a gunshot. How many of you have heard a gunshot inside a building? Not that one. Some of you have, right? Most of you have not. So what would it sound like? It sounds different than on the gun. It's enclosed. It echoes. It's loud. What else comes with a gunshot that you can hear? There's a distinct smell of gunpowder. Kind of a pungent smell, maybe. You're going to smell something you're not used to. Does that tell you also, okay, I've heard something, and now I smell something. So those 2 things should say, okay, gunfire, I should do something. Now I've got to deliberate what to do. I cannot just sit there anymore. Sorry. Exit point. Okay, so when does playing dead work? Who thinks that's a good idea? No one, right? Do we know, does anybody remember in Uvalde, one little girl lived because she played dead? She hid under her body, and she lived. Well, that's what I'm told. I wasn't there personally, but do we think that's really the good idea, though? Maybe in that situation, that's all you have? Excellent. In general, do you think we should hide and play dead? Let's listen to this lady. She was in Virginia Tech.
We heard the first shots around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when we actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door, and she peered outside, and she immediately shut the door, and she said, call 911. And right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor.